This is going to be a deep dive into Bridgerton across all of the seasons. So if you have not watched season 4 and the ones before, this episode isn't for you. I feel like where I want to start from. So I finished season 4 yesterday, and I think that's why I'm going to start with season 4 first, because it's actually considered to be a deep dive, because I want to talk about all the other seasons as well. But I'm going to start with season 4, and obviously as an empath, I'm going to start with the scenes in this season that upset me the most. I feel like everyone's obviously been talking about, in specific, everyone's been talking about the Francesca scene. So when Francesca's like, you've been able to give your husband 8 children, and she's like, I've been able to give John nothing. I said, oh gosh, that is so upsetting. Like, it was such a touching moment. And then obviously Violet had to be there to to comfort her. And I feel like it's so interesting, because obviously it's interesting. And if we stay on the subject of Violet, obviously she's decided to not like go forward with her relationship with Mr. Anderson, all because she obviously needs to be a mother as well, still continues needs to be. But I hear what she's saying, and I do understand, because maybe she feels like, she still does have Hyacinth and Gregory, and although they are growing up, like, they were so young when the show started out, but now that they are growing up, I mean, maybe she does feel like she still has a bit more work to do, and maybe that's why she's like, oh, let me do this work. And that's why she's like, let me do this work, and then I can finally have the time to myself. And I do think that is what most mothers like to do anyway. So I suppose, like any kind of mother who has kids, like, she kind of always wants to, in a way, put her children first. And then in the way, when they all leave, then she can have her own time. So I do understand, like, I guess her perspective and trying to navigate that. And it's like, she's going to try to have to put more time, like, she's going to have to put time into her new relationship and also put time into her children. And I feel like a lot of the time people can't always navigate that at once. Like, you generally can't sometimes navigate a relationship and your children's needs. And I think a lot of the time people somehow end up giving more effort to one versus the other. So I do literally I do literally get that, and I get upset. Of course I was very sad. I was like, dearie me, I was like, you and Miss Anderson have come a long way, and of course you were about to reveal it to your kids, and you was about to love each other loudly. But of course I was like, yeah, maybe just hold on a moment. And I think I really liked how Mr. Anderson was like, oh yeah, he was like, oh, I don't want us to continue as we are, because like we could do that, but he's like, no, you either have all of me or none of me. So I really did love that about like him, and I guess that was his answer back to her. Secondly was definitely, like, I said to you guys, as an empath, I said secondly definitely was Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury being like laughing together and being like, we've had fun these years. I said, wow. I was actually so devastated. And I was like, oh my gosh, nothing else in the whole entire season made me as sad. Like, you guys would have been like, oh, was I upset when John passed away? No. Like, I literally wasn't. It surprised me, but I wasn't like overcome with emotion. Like, had John really grown on me as a character? No. I looked at him like he was just Francesca's husband, but like I don't really think he made much of an impact on me. But obviously Charlotte and Angela, I said, whoa, like they've been friends together for decades. And I was like, for them to really look at each other, like, and be like I was, yeah, just with eyes of love, and like, we've been together for a while, and now I'm fine to let you go. And I really feel sorry for Charlotte. Like, I generally did. I was like, oh, like, she's super lonely. She's on this throne. It's difficult. Like, it's hard to run a country. Hello, all by yourself. And especially then when your husband is also mad at the same time. We said, hello, who do you really have? Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to keep a clear head on your shoulders. And you also And yeah, exactly. You have to give head and headers, and you also have to run the country and give orders out to people. I said hello is a bit too much. And although she's always had like Brimsley there as well, it's still just, oh, it's tough. And I think even in the first part, it was like, yeah, there was moments where you could generally see the young Charlotte coming out, you know, the young Charlotte who came on the throne as a young girl and was just completely thrown into that world. You know, she was all alone by herself. She wanted to flee, remember, at first, initially. She wanted to flee. She wanted to jump over the wall. She said, actually, I don't want to be queen. And then I also don't want to get married to someone I don't even know. And then obviously she's come a long way. But it's like she wouldn't have been able to do as well had she not have had Angela. And I was like, dearie me, this is really hard. And I think everyone said like this season also gave a lot of look at like female friendships, which I do agree. It gave a lot of like look at that, and everyone was like, a lot of the females, I mean, were interacting and engaging. Like, you could even say in specific Francesca and Michaela. But of course, again, can we really say theirs is a friendship so much, seeing as it's supposed to be heading in the other direction? It's just not. It's just not there yet. Like, it's not blossomed to that. But I suppose it will. I do find it really weird that, I mean, they decided to yeah, like I meant his death to me was, again, so surprising. So while we're on the topic, I was like, I found it so surprising that he actually passed away, and from a headache. And it was literally just so random. I do think maybe, again, I think to myself, in terms of Bridgerton as a show, like I love everything about Bridgerton, but that might have been like my probably only minor issue in the way that he passed. And I was like, it was so sudden, and like, what was the need for it? And then also, if they're trying to, in a way, get rid of him so that like something can blossom between Francesca and Michaela, I was like, did he really have to die though? You know, I mean, it's not that serious. If they want us to have a sapphic storyline, I'm like, okay, like it doesn't mean that, you know, him, like that John had to really pass away. Like they could have had them do anything else, which is like, I guess, a divorce, betrayal, one of those things. I don't know, either or. And I'm saying, which one also would have made for a better storyline? You tell me. I just mean, like, you know, if it's like, oh yeah, he realizes that Francesca's cheating, yada yada yada, like what would that have been like? You know what I'm saying? But instead they were just like, you know, we're just gonna take him out, but we're gonna take him out via death. I was like, cool. You know, probably if I was in the writer's chair, not a decision that I would have made. But again, this is your show. And of course, I feel like I'm an advocate, but I'm somebody who is definitely, I'm not against, I really do want the Sapphic storyline, but I didn't want it in the way that they decided to go about it. I mean, so in the way that, like, you know, now her husband's passed away, she's a widow, she's in the period of mourning, all of this stuff. And then I'm just like, you know, that makes it like a whole lot like harder, you know, like could there have been, that's what I'm saying, could there have been an easier way, in the way of like, I don't know, she could have ended up liking Michaela, like just somewhere. I just think now, again, I think to myself, like maybe her and Michaela's story will now be also like, I mean, maybe it was a slow burn initially anyways, but I'm gonna mean even more so now. I mean, because she kind of has to I guess I was gonna say like heal, but I mean in the way that she kind of has to wrap her head around John's death. She kind of has to grieve all she can grieve, and then I suppose then she can go to Michaela. But that's what I'm saying, like that's gonna be a bit of a while, I believe, like, you know, a year or a few months. That's just me. I think that is what they would do for the time period. Like, it's not gonna be any quick thing, you know, like it's not gonna be any quick thing. So I'm like, you guys are now probably delaying the storyline even more, if that makes sense. And oh my gosh, yeah, so, and then also why that scene in particular with Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury got to me, they were also playing The Night We Met by Lord Huron, yeah. And bro, that song always gets me in my feels. Like, I know that song initially was in 13 Reasons Why, so yes, we were all there. I mean, I believe you were there, but it's like that scene, that song in particular always gets me. And I think that song just has like, when I say to you, oh yes, from 13 Reasons Why, no, move on from that. It's like, I feel like that song as a song is just attached to a lot of things. It's like how a song can be, you know, people will be like, oh yeah, this is a great song you'll play at your wedding. That's what I'm saying. And like Lord, like The Night We Met is that. And then it's also like a very like emotional breakup song, like Hello, Calm Down. Like I was really like, oh my gosh, this is insane. And I think that's why I immediately got into my feelings. I was like, whoa. I was like, wait, I didn't think I was gonna cry. I was like, first of all, is Bridgerton even a show like that? Hello? I was like, wait, I'm not supposed to be feeling this emotion. Everyone talks about Bridgerton, like, I guess that it's more so even, like, it's more so smutty than it is emotional. Like, does that make sense? Like, as in, people are like, yeah, you tune in for those kinds of really fiery scenes. And yes, you do. But I was like, oh, you guys are also signing me up to cry as well. I was like, wow. Okay. I was like, okay, now I was like, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, but it's good to feel feelings. And I meant as in, it's good when a show unleashes that out of you anyways. And I think like it just makes you recount on like people that you love and everything like that. Okay, I'm not going to go through my notes that I made. So, but obviously, yes, we're still at season 4 right now because that's where I'm starting. And then I'm probably going to go, I'm now starting backwards. So yeah, season 4 all the way back to season 1, or just different areas. I'm just going to talk about different seasons. I think people have said that, or someone said to me, oh yeah, that it's their favorite season. Yeah, so far. But of course, like my own opinion, that I wouldn't say that. I very did much so enjoy this season because I like the whole Cinderella thing, but it's like I wouldn't declare it as like one of my favorites. It has the same fundamental thing that like most Bridgerton seasons have, which is, you know, like you can test the waters and no matter what, like love is the winner. Like that's what I mean. I like that, you know, that's the one underlying thing. And I mean, it has that in all of them. Do you know what I mean? It has that in all of them. So really, it's like, for me, I'm like, oh, is it really like outstanding to clear all the other ones? I don't think so. I think the other ones have more, like just more riding on them. Do you know what I mean? Like more, what's it called? Yeah, just in terms of how powerful they are. But like, we will get there. Later on, we're going to get there. We'll start off, this is my first note that I said, conversations with open doors. These don't close their doors. And I think that's really odd. And I know you guys are like, you guys will be like, yeah, my notes sometimes don't make sense. Sometimes when I do notes when I'm for potential episodes, it's generally like they're all just a bit all over the place. But it's like, I didn't get that because even Sophie and Benedict, like, yeah, like they were supposed to be hiding their relationship, but sometimes the door would be open. And I was like, what are we doing? Like, there's people out there. But then I suppose in the Bridgerton world, they expect that, yeah, they can have their doors open because even if anyone overhears anything, it doesn't matter. Because if you do and you tell someone, you're getting fired. Like, immediately, you're getting fired. Like, actually just hand in your notice. So I do think that makes sense. Like, as in, when you're working in a specific household, it's like you are tied to that household. So all the stuff you hear in them, it's not leaving out there. Even though, this is what's so crazy, we saw the maids, or we saw the maids like Varley and remember Mrs. Wilson. We saw them all having a little mother's meeting, but kind of a servant meeting type thing. And I was thinking, well, yeah, you guys are all gossips. So this is back to my point of conversation with open doors. I was like, guys, what are we doing? So I was like, you guys, these do gossip. You don't know that they do, but they do though. So I was like, close the door. Every time there'd be a scene where someone was having a conversation in the show, I'd be like, guys, close the door. Close the door. Close it. Just close the door. It's okay. You can do it. It's fine. But it's just like, whatever. But they don't really care. So, I mean, I was like thinking, you guys have no awareness. That's fine. It's actually so okay. That's why, and then that's again, probably, I mean, I think the door was closed for them actually when Alice overheard them, but still, like, hello, you guys should have been quiet then as well. Like, what are you doing? Like, I think you wanted the secret to come out. Okay, my next point is, will next season be Eloise's season? And I said, although they have been focusing mainly on the men, apart from when the first season was Daphne. So yeah, the first season was Daphne, and I feel like with the show, and it's called Bridgerton, like, or called, is it called the Bridgertons? Well, just, yeah, Bridgerton, right? And I'm like, that's their family name. So I was like, really, you do expect that it will be all about them. And like, I know that in the way, that's what I said, like right now in this very moment, they are focusing on the men. So we know that it's been Benedict season. Obviously it was kind of, last season I guess was kind of Collins / Penelope's, but yeah, but just it was something like, it was merged, but it felt like it was a lot about Penelope also at the same time. But again, they were still focusing on Colin in a way. And then I guess the season before that, then it was Anthony, and then of course and then I'm getting, as I said, so in order of all the seasons, sorry, and then that's what I mean, it's Daphne, Anthony, Colin, Benedict, right? So that's what I'm saying, but I don't know, and I feel like they've touched on Eloise a bit, like in previous seasons already, like here and there. I think everyone talks about when she had that little like fling with like Philip. I call it a fling. It really wasn't anything. Like, it really wasn't anything. Like, she had that thing with Philip, but that was it though. And that's what I mean. But I'm still thinking, are they eventually going to have a season that is completely focused on her? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I'm hoping that for her. I guess maybe they don't really want to, because in the way of them showing her, I feel like they're kind of fringing, making her seem like she might be the ace representation in the way that she's not really feeling like her life should be surrounded by romance, even though in this last season I feel she was obviously speaking to I feel like it was Penelope. Yeah, like I feel like it was Penelope, and she was basically saying like, oh yeah, I see everyone around. Oh no, sorry, I tell a lie. It was Hyacinth. She was talking to her sister, and she was like, oh yeah, like we all wouldn't have been born had our mother and dad not met and like them get married. And that made it almost sound like for a moment that, you know, she could potentially be thinking that she wants something like that, possibly. It's also okay if she doesn't, again, because I think Eloise is a very good character for people who, I guess, don't see themselves in that world, or don't necessarily yearn for a romantic relationship, you know? And the way that I guess Eloise, like, she gets weird whenever she's like around men, and like she's always like, her face always goes a bit funny and she gets a bit repulsed. So like, I feel like she's that for people, do you know what I mean? So I don't know, do they kind of want to keep her that way, or do they want her to, I guess, end up in a marriage just like all her other siblings? It'll be interesting to find out. And I just, as I said, I wonder if it will be her season, or maybe potentially it might be Francesca's, if you think about it, seeing as she just lost her husband. So in a way that could potentially, yeah, it could potentially be her, I feel. Do you know what I mean? They might want to focus on her, even though in a way they kind of focus on her a little bit this season too, but like, I meant they made me want to maybe give it mainly to her. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think, again, so they won't probably be focusing on Sophie and Benedict too much, because of course we just had their season, so it'll be the same thing as how when we had Anthony and Kate, you know, we had their season, we practically didn't see them again, right? And then we didn't see them again. Like, I feel like, hold on. Yeah, in the previous one, like, so obviously Colin and Penelope's, we barely didn't see them. And then of course now they've come back for Benedict's one, but it's gonna be the same thing, I mean. So I feel like Sophie and Benedict, they will take a backseater. So that's why I'm saying potentially I do feel like it will either be Francesca or Eloise. If not, maybe. If not, maybe, depending on how long the next season is. Depending on how long the next season is, it could either be Gregory or Hyacinth, really. Do you know what I mean? It could potentially be them. But it's just interesting, I mean. And maybe they might not want to give Eloise a season, if you think about it. Because they might just see it as, she's not somebody who they're trying to make the central character. Because, again, that's just not where she's, like, going, that's not what she is set out for. So again, I guess it's kind of a coin flip. It just will be really interesting to see who they decide to be the headliner for next season. Oh yeah, lastly, because I said, about The Night We Met as well. So I said Bridgerton's soundtrack eats every time. And obviously this season had so many good songs. As I said, Night We Met in the last episode. And then it also had it had 360 by Charlie XCX. And it also had a Halsey song in there as well, but I can't remember the name. And again, it still had a lot of like good like bangers, like lots of songs that I wanted to hear. Like I feel like this season a lot was like, I guess, a lot of like pop songs anyways. That's what I felt like this season was. And they also had that one where they did the Paramore song, which was All I Wanted, I believe. So yeah, they did All I Wanted as well. So there we go. The soundtrack was 10/10. Like no notes. I have no notes. This like next point was what was it? They Made It. A Maid and a Nobleman. I said yes, absolutely. Again, what I said earlier, exactly. Again, it's the underlying thing of exactly love conquers all, and no matter what, like it's gonna work out. Do you know what I mean? They had us there though, where we were thinking, is it going to work out? But again, they show us time and time again that yes, it is going to work out no matter what. Even with Anthony's season, which was so crazy. We were like, oh, he had this whole thing where he was intertwined with a maid. Then of course he was almost getting married to Kate's sister. Then he ends up with Kate. So even then, like that was all messy. And again, they still managed to achieve love. Like, this is what I'm saying. They still managed to achieve. We said, won't God do it? I mean, again, actually, not even God, actually. Won't Shonda do it? Yeah, she will. She will every time. This point, the next point was, even however realistic, Anthony was being, he surprised me greatly. Because he did. I was actually really disappointed. I don't know if that was just me, but like, I just mean he surprised me in the way that like he was against Benedict being with Sophie, and just because she was a maid though, like, and I understood it in terms of how I guess like the societal pressures and like, you know, the reputation and how yes it's going to bring down the Benedict household. Do you know the whole thing? Actually, I think he only acted that way, of course, was because he'd been in the same boat. So that was literally why. I think that was where his perspective came from. But I really thought like the king of yearning, which is Anthony, I really was like, no, this take from you is a serious hot take. Like, I was like, wait. Yeah, I was like, hold on, wait, what's going on? Like, surely you would be like, yes, if you want to be with this girl, be with her. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, because, hello, I remember how Anthony was acting, because exactly, he was supposed to get married to Kate's sister, but he was acting up every time Kate was around, and he was sniffing the air, and he was acting a fool. We said, hello, like, yeah, you already know what it's like. You already know what it's like. You've already been there, okay? Someone you can't help but want, but you want them anyway. Like, what are you saying? Like, you don't have any right to say any of that. You don't have any right to do any of that. You don't have any right to say that. And then also, he's acting like, you know, because he's the oldest brother, like he's in charge. Like, he's not even there. Like, he's there in his home with Kate and their son, so he doesn't really what's it called? He doesn't handle the house's affairs. So, or he doesn't, because he was saying to Benedict, oh yeah, I'll cut you off. And we were like, but you don't even, you don't even live here though. You don't even live here. So what are we talking about? You're acting like you have my life in your hands, but aren't you a family man now? You have bigger things to deal with. So I was generally just like, what's going on? I was like, what's going on? What are you talking about? So we're still going to do it no matter what. Right. And the fact of the matter is Benedict had two people on him at once being like, oh yeah, I'm against it or whatever. It was only the boxer guy who, in a way, I don't know if he didn't really give me the impression that he was against it. He was like, obviously, yeah, she's low rank, but she's like, oh, no one wants to be asked to be a mistress because someone doesn't want to be embarrassed in that way. So I was like, he was the only one who really was coming with facts, coming with like, yeah, like he was being very like, I feel like nuanced on it, nuanced, I mean, so in the way where it's like, you're neutral and you're not like out here being like outright, oh yeah, don't pursue this because all this is gonna happen. He's like, yeah, like he was giving him proper like not constructive criticism, but in the way that like it was actually stuff that he actually needed to hear. Like afterwards, and I hated that, he was like to Sophie, oh yeah, I shouldn't have asked you that. And we were like, not that you got there by yourself, by the way. You didn't figure that out all on your own, but that's okay. Someone had to tell you that it was wrong, and then you were like, oh, okay. So, you know what I mean? Even while we're on the subject of that really irritated me, because you should have known that asking someone to be a mistress is wrong. Like you should have known. Who wants to be cooped up in a house or in just some far off place, like, and then you only come there like, I don't know, once a week. I said, what are we doing? No. Yeah, that you just come there once a week and that also you're a secret. And then also, yes, and then also Sophie's mum was a maid as well, and she had to be a secret. So again, you're just gonna have her repeat history. And we were like, no, I don't want to repeat history. By the way, my life's been pretty tough already. You think I want to give it to somebody else? No. I was really just like, Benedict, you should have known already. Oh, this next point, I said I love Posey. I love Posey even more so. She never felt threatened by her mother and still tried to protect Sophie regardless. I loved her, like, yes, I loved her in part 1, and that's what I'm saying. In part 2, I loved her even more. I was like, she's so great. And I was like, even though she was like semi-afraid of her mom, she still decided to like be like, oh yeah, Sophie's of no threat, and I'm sorry that my mom's been so horrible to you. And I was like, yes, Posey, yes. And honestly, I wish all the best for Posey. She deserves that. She deserves that, absolutely. After being in that house with those two, and like they were basically both just out for revenge, we were like, no, like I think even one time I wrote in my notebook, I said #free Posey, because she was actually so stressed, like and it was so evil. It was so evil when her mum, in a way, like, I feel like, yes, her mum gaslight her in a way, because she was like, oh, I know that I can exploit Posey because she's not that smart, like, or that she's somebody who she can take advantage of. And I was like, that's really evil. That's actually your daughter, by the way. But she was talking to her, and like she was going on this sympathy story, and then Posey was like, oh, like, but you don't have to worry anymore, like, Sophie's leaving. Like, she was like, you don't have to worry, it's fine. And then obviously I was just like, you know what you did. Like, honestly, I was like, Penwood, I said, you know what you did. Honestly. What's her name? Amaretta? Yeah. Amaretta, you know what you did. You did that because you knew Posey would tell you, and then you had the cheek to hug her afterwards. Yeah. Don't take advantage of my Posey. Definitely not. The next point is, what was it? Is Lady Whistledown never dies. That's what I mean. Penelope was so stunned and so surprised that someone would decide to take over her role. But I already knew that though. Like, and I think we all probably knew that. Like when the show was on, we probably all were like, oh, of course somebody else is going to take on the role of Lady Whistledown. Like, did you think it was going to be over? And the fact that Lady Whistledown is like, I guess, a running thing, like it's something that needs to come out like all the time. People thrive on gossip in the ton. I was like, hello, do you really think they're going to be like, no, we don't want Lady Whistledown anymore? No, just because you don't want to do it anymore doesn't mean anything. But like, people want to know about these things. And I think, of course, I think I wrote this in my watches, but I was like, yeah, of course, Penelope couldn't be Lady Whistledown anymore because she's not a wallflower anymore. So she doesn't have the checklist or the capabilities of what it means to be Lady Whistledown, or what you have to do, I mean, to be Lady Whistledown. Like, you generally have to fade in the back, hear things by accident, and just, that's what I mean. That's all you're doing. And also be somebody who is, what's it called? I think I wrote this as well. No, be somebody who's also of working class, kind of. So someone who's not too high up in the ranks. But I mean, when she started Lady Whistledown, it was a way of, it was her voice. You know what I mean? So she didn't need it anymore. And I mean, I guess, in a way, I feel like even last season, it was like, oh yeah, she should have put it down as well. Like, it made it seem like, you know, she was potentially going to put it down even then, because it was like, she generally doesn't need it anymore. And I think, like, with Lady Whistledown, you need to need it. Like, you generally need to need it. Like, you need to pick it up when you know that you want to be higher up, and like, yeah. And you also have to be, what's the word? You have to also not be shy to write about yourself as well. Because obviously that, if you don't, then it looks suspicious. Because it's like, why are you not writing about you? Like, you know what I mean? You're supposed to be being somebody else, you know? Like, Lady Whistledown is a personality. She's an alter ego. Like, that's what I mean. So I'm saying you have to kind of step outside of yourself and basically write about everything. So I was generally like, yeah, she really couldn't do it anymore because she's now Bridgerton, so it's just not going to work. Like, and somebody else can, though. So someone who really wants to, get their name out there. And then again, like, when we didn't know who Lady Whistledown was, that was one of the most, I guess, one of the most exciting times about Bridgerton also. Like, the mystery of not knowing who was behind Lady Whistledown. That was so exciting. And now we get to do that again. Now we get to live that again, in not knowing who it is. I think, potentially, I said who I think Lady Whistledown is this time is potentially Alice, because she seems like someone who's really fiery in the way that she obviously approached the Queen in that last episode. And then I obviously also said the new Lady Penwood. So also, what's her name? Lady Cooper. So I thought it was either those two, but it could potentially also be anyone else, you know? And then again, like, that's the thing about Lady Whistledown. You're never close as to who it is. Like, I feel like I didn't even know at the time that it was potentially going to be Penelope either. So even though I have those two guesses right now, I could still be wrong. Like, I'm telling you, I could still be wrong. It could be anyone else. And again, I will still be just as pleased, or just as like happy with the result. Oh, this one again was like, again, another pop at Anthony, because I said, how is it that he was the best man? Because I was like, he was against this union. So I said, how was he actually there? Did he get that role just because he's the older brother? Probably. So I was generally just like, okay, like, whatever. And I think, isn't it, he said to him, oh yeah, don't listen to me or whatever. And I was like, yeah. I was like, don't worry, we won't. Like, that's what I mean. I was thinking, like, yeah, you was against it, but don't worry, because we're literally getting married, so it doesn't even matter. I was like, it doesn't even matter. That's another thing, because obviously I saw online people didn't know that there was a post-credit scene. So obviously, yeah, there's a post-credit scene. I was surprised that people didn't know, because generally when I finished the episode, it had 6 minutes left. So I was like, oh, like, there has to be something. So then I skipped. And I feel like, with post credits anyways, I think sometimes you should also always wait. Just in any type of show, like we always think it's basically like a Marvel or DC thing, like that's the field. But generally sometimes it's literally universal, like literally just wait. I know that because I'm thinking like it's so weird. I guess maybe for me as someone who goes to the cinema, like I don't usually leave quickly anymore, like I really don't. And if I can, then I'll literally take my time, take out a letterbox anyways, so that too, like add a few extra 5-10 minutes on like while the credits are rolling, and then of course the post credit scene will play, and then I'll be like, okay, cool, like I didn't know there was gonna be one, but like obviously there's always a potential that there will be one. Like there's actually always a small chance and like a very small possibility. Lastly is Gregory and the fact that the Bridgertons like POCs apart from Colin, and I said it skipped him completely, and it's fine. There always has to be. I'm like, yeah, there always has to be one. I mean, like in the way that, yeah, like it's not to say that not to say all of them are gonna have the same type. That's what I'm saying, but I just mean yeah, at least they brought that back, I guess, with Gregory. Colin wanted Penelope, that's cool. But I meant Gregory saw that black girl and said, yes, she's mine. He said, yeah, I want her. He said, what's her name? He was like, he kept looking at her, and I was like, yes, okay, Gregory. So I said, and you know that scene in specific was like, oh, Gregory, yes, we're ready for you. Like when it's your time, come to the front. It's gonna actually be revolutionary. I do think it's going to be revolutionary. And if we think about all the other seasons before it, I'm sure it will deliver. Like it will deliver. It will eat. Like absolutely. Obviously, let me pick up back on the point of what I was saying about my favorite seasons, right? So I feel like, yeah, obviously Anthony and Kate's season, duh. Obviously Queen Charlotte, a Bridgerton story, yes. And then, okay, yeah, Colin and Penelope, remember, I feel like everyone talks about them also a little bit, but their story didn't really give anything. Like, it gave something a little bit, like, I suppose it was kind of like, I feel like it was supposed to be like the Wallflower trope and like, she comes out into the world and whatever, but that, again, I don't feel like that was doing too much for me. If I'm honest, it wasn't doing too much for me. But like I do like what I was saying earlier about like, you know, when it's like very powerful, like it's just in terms of I mean, okay, first of all, Anthony and Kate, remember, they're enemies to lovers. So that's what I'm saying. When you think about it, they already win. I meant like they already clear everyone just on the basis of that alone. The fact that they obviously, didn't like one another, and then like and he's like, what is it that I have done? Why do I vex you so? And she's like, you just annoy me. And I'm like, yes. And then also the monologue, remember, you are the vein of my existence, and it is not far enough. Okay. And scene, but no, like I was like, obviously that monologue is crazy. And then again with Queen Charlotte and Anna, what's it called, Anna Bridgerton's story, like her whole entire story is like she was willing to stick by King George, even though he was a bit nutty. We said hello. She was like, oh, I will tell you where you are. Do you love me? And he's like, I love you. From the moment you jumped over the wall. Okay, sorry. Again, and scene again. But no, like again, it's like those two, just powerful stuff. I do think Sophie and Benedict also gave that a little bit. Like, I forget, there was a moment which was great for me. I can't remember what he was saying to her, but like he's like, yeah, like, you've possessed me, you've taken possession of me. It was something along those lines, and I was like, Anthony's been teaching you. You know what to do and what to say. You are his mentor. he is your teacher. Because I was like, yeah, that was very similar to that. Do you know what I mean? And again, when he would just say stuff to her, again, he was doing very well with that. Do you know what I mean? I do feel like, because I keep going back again to Colin and Penelope, were they really giving that much though? And did they really have like, what's the word? Did they really have standout lines? In terms of like, in terms of declarations of love. I don't know if they really had that, And also, remember, also with their story, remember they were fighting, remember, anyways, when he realized that she was Lady Whistledown, he was upset and he was like, well, you've been writing about my family all season, yada, yada, yada. And we were like, okay, first of all, this is our day job. Like, please don't get mad. We were like, this is our day job. This is what we do for a living. So I was like, what are we talking about? But that's what I'm saying. I just don't feel like they really had that. Everyone else obviously had that, even Daphne in the first season, she had that as well. She had that with the guy, I think was his name Reg or something. Yeah, she had that with him too. And it's very interesting because everyone was saying as well, like about this news, like about this last season, that you don't really see Daphne much, and like she's never come like to any of this stuff. Like she didn't come to like any kind of family occasion, like in terms of like a wedding, a funeral, like there's been those. And then I've seen in this season anyways, there's been a wedding and a funeral. And then that's what I'm saying. Then if you think last year's as well, there was a whole new baby. Like, there we go. There was a whole new baby, even before Kate's, right? So we said Penelope and Colin had their baby. And then we're like, Anthony and Kate had their baby. And then we're like, she never come for any of those. Well, like, she didn't come for any of those. Like, she's not been there. And then I also think about how people said, like, yeah, she's like Hyacinth misses Daphne as well because she feels like she's a sister she can most relate to. And then we saw that a lot in this season because her and Eloise were having a lot of friction. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like the March sisters. Remember, because just because my dreams are different from yours doesn't mean they're not I forget what the rest of the line is, but it just because, so that's like the same thing, because that's how Joe was like to Amy, like, why do you want to get married? You'll be bored of him and we will be young forever. And I was like, oh, that's so cute. But I think like that is probably what like Eloise and Hyacinth's relationships are like, because obviously Eloise is like, well, you want to get married, you want to do these stuff, but I don't, so that's fine. And she's like, yeah, she was saying to him when they had the conversation that I was talking about earlier, she was like, yeah, you want to be, I said, I would like, she said, oh yeah, I idolize of being a spinster, like, that's not for you, but I think the sound of that sounds great. And obviously, Hyacinth was like, yeah, well, because Hyacinth was having a hard time with obviously knowing that Francesca lost her husband. She was like, oh, so I'm gonna have to date someone just for them to potentially die. And then maybe she's also thinking about the fact that well, yeah, that her dad passed away, and like I don't think she really, she didn't know him, because she was even saying that to them at the funeral. She was in Violet's stomach when he like passed away, so she didn't even know him. So maybe that's why, like, I guess obviously her dad's death was a while ago, but I think like in terms of like, oh yeah, John dying, she was like, I guess maybe it brought up that kind of grief as well, in the way that, oh yeah, she's like, oh, my mother's lost her husband, and so has my sister. She's like, that's two people who have lost like their loved ones, and she's like, is that the future that awaits me? And we're like, I mean, maybe, but it's all about, I guess, taking the risk no matter what, and also enjoying what moment you have with whomever, with whomever you meet. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna have that. Do you know what I mean? And that should be all that it matters. And like John and Francesca as well as a couple, I feel like they were very interesting to me, just in the way that I felt like they matched each other's freak. So not even like, I mean, yeah, Anthony and Kate match each other's freak too, yes. So do Sophie and Benedict. And obviously Colin Plampy do as well. So, but I meant like, I mean in the way that I feel like John and Francesca matched each other's energies, if anything. Just in terms of how like, I guess, like, what was it? John was looking at like the moon, I believe. And like, exactly, he likes all of those little like, I don't know. I want to say like, I was gonna say like niche hobbies or like, you know, those little small things. And I do feel like that's where they get on. Do you know what I mean? And Francesca's not really that like, I don't know. She's not very like outgoing. Like she doesn't really have a huge personality. Do you know what I mean? Like like I guess in comparison to her siblings, and I think feel like she even said that herself. Anyways, that like she obviously feels so different from them, and I guess that's why John was literally like, he was like her person anyways as well. That's what's really interesting. I feel like that's what their relationship is. Everybody else's, I meant like, yes, they get on, but I mean just not in the same way. When like someone is literally like, yeah, they could be a reflection of you. Like it's almost like that. And possibly, why do I feel like Benedict might have out-yearned Anthony in a way? He kind of did it because in a way, when we see the fact that he was drawing her for weeks and then he painted her at the very end, I do feel like maybe like the yearning goes an extra mile than just the yearning that Anthony had. Also, I love the moment, actually, remember when Benedict was like, yeah, I've been around, and Sophie was like, you know what, that's okay. Do you know what I mean? I was like, Benedict's a bi king. She was like, okay, great. It was like moving on, but I like that they had that scene anyway. It's kind of just like, I suppose, yes, a kind of representation scene, and to just be like, you know, it's actually okay, like, I'm gonna hold your hand, like, it's all right, it's fine. Oh my gosh, and the side couples ate. So Footman John and Sophie's friend, from obviously, from, I think she was at one of the places that Sophie had worked at. So then obviously then she came to Bridgerton House as well. But Footman John and her are so sweet, and I loved that. And obviously I think it's nice when we look at side characters sometimes versus the main ones, and that is like just, I guess, the icing on the cake. Like when they started each other at the wedding, I was like, so cute, so lovely. Specifically because also I swear Footman John, he was kind of giving player exactly, and then also it was like, oh, now he obviously wanted to be Sophie's friend, and I was just like, well, that's just lovely, you know, just to tie a man down. Still watching, I'm hearing so much stuff about how like even I mentioned this earlier in the way that, yeah, Anthony was very shocking this season, but I can't believe people actually hate him. Like, obviously, I've been hearing people are actually hating on him. And I think I even saw a comment the day that was like, oh yeah, I hate Anthony this season. And I was like, whoa, like, you know, I was saying earlier, like, I was disappointed. I don't hate him though. Because again, like I said earlier, I literally see it from his perspective. I literally get it. Like, I get why you know, he was having that kind of perspective. And I guess maybe he also felt, again, I think when I said to you guys earlier, it's like, it's his older brother, what's it called, kind of perspective that he's having. So I also feel like that plays into part. Like, he's not really trying to think about the fact that, you know, like Benedict's yearning and all that stuff. Like, as I said, I was like, yeah, Anthony, like, I want to say was the king of yearning, but I mean, he passed it over to Benedict, probably just to borrow it, just for a little while. But like, I just mean in the way that, yeah, like, again, in this season, you can see that, you know, like, yeah, he wasn't on the team, and that's okay though. Like I said, I found it weird, but I don't think we shouldn't hate Anthony, right? You know, he's got his happy ending with Kate, and that's like, do you know what I mean? At least he got that. Do you know what I mean? I think it was funny, wasn't it? Benedict said, oh yeah, we shouldn't compare was it to opera singers? He said something like that. It was one of those lines in the show, and it was literally like, you know, potting the kettle black, because we don't know. It was like, what are you talking about? What are you saying? Like, you don't even. He's like, you've been here too, so you can't say anything. You can't say anything. You've come out the other end, but that don't mean anything. Do Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything. But yeah, I think, guys, yeah, we shouldn't hate on Anthony too much. It literally makes a lot of sense. And like I was saying earlier, it also just makes sense too. And also on top of what I was saying earlier as well, I did say about, because I was saying about my favorite season, and I think, like, of course everyone was saying season 4 was theirs, but I obviously do think that Queen Charlotte Bridgerton story is my favorite, if I'm honest. Like, if I had to choose one out of them, and I know that's so hard, actually. I think it's even hard to pick one in general, because all of them have such, like, what's it called, like, unique storylines. I mean, like, each one of them do, and I do think that a lot of the time they show exactly the power of will, like I said, and like they just, again, they do really show testament of love. And like the whole thing in the marriage, when I watch these shows, I'm like, damn, I'm lonely. So I mean, that's what I mean. I think it's actually a universal feeling. When it's like, we watch these shows and we're like, wow, like, why isn't anyone doing that now? What's wrong with this generation? But like, yeah, I think as I said, Queen Charlotte and King George is just, yeah, it just takes the cake for me. Like, in the way that, as I said, like, Charlotte didn't want to be with George initially, but in the way she basically, it's so funny. I was gonna say she, like, gentle parented him, but I just mean in the way that, like, it was in the way that they didn't immediately love each other, right? But it was just like a very slow and gradual thing. And there were times when he didn't want her in his presence, but then they just tied it all together, and it was like, you know, she calmed him down. Like, she made him, like, be able to run a country, even though he had his madness as well. And she also got rid of that crazy doctor as well. That crazy doctor that was making George have all these weird kind of weird experiments or undergoings. It was basically just torture anyways. So that's what he was doing to George. And then obviously Charlotte was just like, well, you're just gonna have to leave. Like, you're actually gonna have to get out of here. And she said, like, I can actually take over from this, and I will do a way better job than you will, even though you're like a trained doctor in whatever it is that you do. Whatever it is that you do, I can take over and I will do a 10 times better job. So that's just my, like, personal opinion. And lastly, the press tour for the season has also been great, but I feel like the press tour also, remember, for Queen Charlotte and Queen Charlotte Bridgerton story was also great, to be honest. Like, the press tours always go crazy. You literally see how good their chemistry is and everything like that. Even Yearner and Luke, like, they've been laughing together. I think I've even added oh yeah, I'm going to add the TikToks in the description, which you guys can watch because they are so hilarious. And you know what's really funny? I wonder if actually anybody does ever look at the TikToks I put in the description. I usually find them really hilarious. But I don't know if you guys really look at them, because then you have to go to the description and, you know, you have to watch them. And I don't know if it's like a reach or what, but you know what I mean? Is it hard? I don't know. But obviously, yeah, you should still look at those. Because I think even today, from one of the videos, I was looking at like Benedict's a Benedict and Sophie edit, and I was like, wow, like, their love is actually great. And I think when we look back on Benedict's, there's also another link in there as well that's like, when we look at Benedict's evolution, like, obviously as a person, we're actually like, oh my gosh, like, he's actually always been a yearner. Do you know what I mean? Although he had such a wild and reckless personality, I feel like, you know, he just needed the right person, which I feel like is which, like, literally is always the way. Like, obviously somebody always needs the right person to literally get them out of their habits. Do you know what I mean? Get them out of their habits and basically bring them down to earth. In the same way, of course, as what I was saying about George and Charlotte. So honestly, you just need one person that grounds you. I also saw another edit, I think, which was like which was like about Benedict and his mom, so about Benedict and Violet, and in the way that they are both similar, and that Benedict is mainly, like, out of all of them, is the one that's most like her. And I found that one so adorable. Like, I actually can't. I was like, the comparisons make sense, and she obviously said that to him in this season as well. So I was literally just like, someone was like, you know what, I need to make this edit right now. And the edit actually ate. So, and I love all the edits about the season actually recently. It's actually so amazing. But thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.